Hello and welcome to Tornado Spotlight, where the spotlight is on the coaches. I'm Scott Douglas and we are here at BC Outfitters, where you can get all your BC apparel on campus. And my guest today is a Brevard College alumni, but he's the women's basketball coach, Coach Hud. Nice to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, Scotty, and I appreciate you. Like all the things that you do behind the scene and things you do around campus, man. I really appreciate you. You're a great example of what Brevard College is and what it represents.
Oh,
I appreciate
thanks.
you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So you graduated here at 2011?
Yes.
So how did you find Brevard as a student?
Okay. So going back to my high school days. So I played 3 sports in high school: baseball, football, and basketball. Was pretty into all of them. Football was my main love, though.
Okay.
And so I got a call from Brevard College, Coach Roy Tesh. I'll never forget the call. It kind of changed my life. It was in late March, early April. So kind of late in the football realm. You come to camp in August. So a late call in March, early April, and he offered me a spot and a scholarship to come here and play. I came up with my mom, my sisters, and visited the college, and it was a great match. It was a good match. So I came here back in 2006 to play football, and that's how I heard about Brevard. Never heard of anything before that phone call. It was a startup program. It was the first year of football here in a long time, and it was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. I had some offers on the table to go play baseball or go play basketball individually, but football was my thing. And football is like what I really wanted to do, and that opportunity came and I couldn't pass it up. And it was been a great decision for me.
Yeah. So you came here to play football.
Yes.
So how did you end up in the basketball world?
Okay. And so I played multiple sports all through my childhood and everything. And so I get to my sophomore, junior year of college here, and I get an itch to want to play basketball. And so I developed a relationship with the head men's basketball coach at the time. His name is Mike Jones. Even though I was just playing football, I would still be down in the gym watching the games and just going in, watching practice from time to time. And I asked him what would I have to do to be a part of the team, and he said, just come out for a couple practices and see how it goes. And I did, and I was a part of the basketball team going into my junior year. So I was able to play football and basketball here at Brevard.
Oh, so your last 2 years, did you juggle both, or did you?
I did.
Oh,
I did, and it was like I was an exercise science major as well, and so you can imagine like not much time for anything else. Both of my sports and exercise science kind of dominated my time, but it was something that I needed. I didn't have a lot of downtime. When you have downtime in college, sometimes we tend to make bad decisions. In playing multiple sports and being in the ending of my exercise science major, didn't have a lot of time, but it was fun. It was fun. It was something that I had done all my life. So it wasn't like I was putting a stress or strain on my body that it wasn't used to.
Right.
I'd played multiple sports all through my life, so I was blessed enough that Coach Jones gave me the opportunity, and we have a really good relationship to this day.
That's nice.
He's kind of a mentor of mine. I call him about different things or shoot him a text about different things when I have questions about coaching, and I'm blessed that he gave me that opportunity. But yes, came here to play football, but ended up being able to play both sports before I graduated.
Wow. So then once you graduated, you then became the assistant coach for women's basketball, is that correct?
No, it was men.
Men's basketball.
It was the men's basketball team. So as I'm graduating, Coach Jones calls me into his office and kind of asks me what my plans are about my future. I was finishing my degree but didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And so he sat me down. I'll never forget this conversation. And it was in his office at the time. And he asked me if I would like to be a part of his staff after graduating. So be his assistant going into that the next year of my life. And like coming to Brevard, it was just an opportunity that I couldn't pass up, And so I began my career as an assistant with the men's team. I did that for 2 years. And then an opportunity came for me to transition to the women's side, and I was an assistant for the women for 3 years.
Right.
And then an opportunity came for me to have a chance to be the head coach, and I've been here ever since. I've been that chair ever since.
So what was the transition like being a student then going from a student to assistant coach, then assistant coach to head coach.
Got you. So student to assistant coach was probably the toughest adjustment. Going from being friends with these guys and being teammates and hanging out and playing video games and just having fun on the weekends to that next year, I'm now coaching them. You know, so now when things go wrong in practice, it's on me to blow the whistle and put them on the line and disciplinary things. And the guys that I was friends with, they were really cool about it. They really understood that it had to be a line drawn that I can't hang out with you guys anymore. You know, I can't play the video game with you guys anymore. I'm in a different role. You know, so that was probably the toughest. Being, I want to say, 22 years old or something like that, and just hanging out with these guys a previous semester. Now the next semester, it's like I have to cut that part of our friendship. Like, we're still friends and cordial and everything, but that part, that aspect of it, it can't be the same. So that was probably the toughest. And then going from assistant to head coach, I've always prepared myself for that situation. You know, even as an assistant, I knew being a head coach was one of my aspirations. So I always thought as a head coach, honestly. Like in games or in practice, I would ask myself, like, what would I do in this situation if this was my team? What would I do in this situation if I was calling the shots? So when that opportunity came, I really felt like I was prepared for it. I had already kind of taken myself through all kind of tests and different game scenarios and roster management in my mind. So when it came, it wasn't the first time that I had gone through it. So that wasn't a huge adjustment for me. I would say the student to assistant was bigger than that.
Yeah. So did you ever have in your head being a head coach for any other sport, or was it always the thought, like once the coach came to you with that thought, did it only ever stick with basketball?
As far as being a head coach, I want to say basketball, but I have coached a little bit of football along the way as well. Here at Brevard, I was able to coach positions. I coached like the wide receiver position and the running back position, but I never really had thoughts or aspirations of being a head football coach. That never really crossed my mind. But once I got the chance to be a head coach on the basketball side, that's what I thought of as the next step. And it was, and I kind of prepared myself as such. And when it happened, it was like I'd already been there, if that makes sense.
So now that you've been with the women's basketball team for a while now, what has that kind of been like for you, being able to develop the program and go on to achieve certain things? I've
had the privilege of coaching some really, really good women. That's on the court and off the court. Like phenomenal students, phenomenal athletes, phenomenal people. You know, and it's been a blessing to kind of take this thing from where it was in 2006 to kind of where it is right now. You know, when I first got the job, we were still competing in a Division II conference, but we were not using scholarships to recruit. You know, so it was kind of tough to compete. And that first year was really tough, really tough. We won 6 games. You know, we won 6 games. But I tell you what, I wouldn't trade that team for anything that we have gotten since then. That team was a really character-based team. And, like, we would finish some games with 4 people. Like, we were low numbers. Like injuries and a couple of players being ineligible put us in a really tough spot coming down the stretch. And there were, I want to say, 2 games in particular that we had to finish with 4 people. Like, we started the game with like 5 or 6, and someone fouls out or an injury. Now you have to play with what you have. And that team never complained. That team always battled in practice. We won some games that we shouldn't have won. We got off to a really good start. It was a promising start, but the longer we got into the year, the fatigue and the tired legs of having limited numbers, that kind of hurt us some. I want to say we won our first 3 or 4 games. So it was a really good start to the year. But once we got around January, February, and the numbers started to decrease, it began to get tough. And seeing where the program is going from then to now, I feel really good about it. You know, but that's not just me. Not just me at all. I've had some really good assistants, and I've had some really good administration around here that supported the program, and it's been a blessing. It's been a blessing to do this at a place that I called home as an athlete as well. You know, sitting in that same cafeteria, coming in this same bookstore, sitting in those same classrooms. You know, that's something that I really, really cherish, for one. And I want to see this program, and not just my program, but the programs around the department. Every program here, I want to see us continue to have success. I want to see this place be the best version of itself that it can be. But it's been a real blessing, Scotty, to answer your question, to go from 2006 to where we are right now, not 6, but 16, to where we are right now. I think it speaks volume to the people that have come through the program, that have touched the program, and that have left it better than they found it.
So kind of talking about how programs have changed. So once you came here at Brevard College as a student freshman year to what it's like at this today as we're speaking, what has it been like kind of seeing the college as a whole develop?
Oh man, so many changes, and not just like the physical changes around campus, but there's been a lot of people that have moved on and come through here that I've met as I went through school and kind of worked here. And just seeing the place kind of continue to grow, it feels good.
Yeah.
It feels good. And sometimes I have to kind of ground myself a little bit because I come here and see the same things every day. And I've been doing that since 2006. So some things can, oh gosh, yeah, it's just the mountains. Oh yeah, we got a new football field. Like it's new to certain people, but I see it every day. And so I have to kind of think back to, we didn't have this stuff when I was here. So things are going in the right direction. There's been additions to campus, there's construction, new dorms and everything going up, and it's nice to see. What's really fun is when like one of my teammates will come back, somebody that I played with here, and they get to come back and I get to show them different things around campus, and we kind of think how it would have been or what it would be if we would have had some of those things.
Yeah.
But we kind of feel like we kind of laid the groundwork for some of it, and we're happy to see it. Like they're not really reaping the benefits of it. I am, but the campus as a whole is improving. And now the students that come through now have things that we never thought about. And it's nice to continue to see the growth. Not seeing us kind of being stuck or being stagnant in one place. But tremendous amount of growth as far as the people that have been here and a college as a whole.
Yeah, wow. So when you came here as a freshman, you've obviously been in Brevard as you've kind of grown up and kind of matured in age and come to be who you are today. And you also have a family now, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And so kind of, what was that like, kind of coming here as a freshman and then building your life here without even realizing?
That's really what happened, Scott. Exactly what you just said is what happened. And I don't think about it as much as I should, but I've really spent a ton of my life here in this town at this college. I've really went from 17, 18-year-old kid trying to find his way, just want to go play some football, play some basketball, and get a quality education, to now raising a family here, and a lot has gone into that. A lot of people have helped with that. My wife and my son, they really like the area. My mom really loves the area. She loves to come up. And now she comes up even more because she gets to visit my grandson and everything. Yeah. Well, her grandson, my son. And it's an area that I couldn't imagine being anywhere else, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to have this kind of success at any other place than somewhere that I've kind of grown up from a personal side. I've grown and learned a lot about myself. As you go through college, those 4 or 5 years is really, really where you find yourself. Yeah. You go through some things. You've kind of been taught the ropes by your parents and your guardians and everything. But once you go to college, it's time for you to stand on your own 2 feet, and I was able to do that here and learn a lot about myself. And now kind of raising a family in this area, it's nice. It's good. But I tell you what, I don't think about this stuff as much as I should. Like, if you didn't ask some of these questions, it wouldn't cross my mind. But it's nice. It's a blessing, man. It's a real blessing to kind of have my family now in the area where I went to school, and we're working, and we're kind of laying the foundation for what's going to be next for my son. Yeah. But yeah, it's nice, man.
And then did you meet your wife here? Or?
I did not. And that's going back to high school. I met my wife when I was a sophomore in high school.
Wow.
I was 15, she was 14, she was a freshman. So we've been at it for a while. We've been at it for a while. We went all through high school, all through college, and got married 5 years ago. Yeah. And now we have a 1-year-old that's kind of changing our lives. But it's beautiful. It's great. It's great. It's nothing better than coming home to, we have a little fence in my apartment to where we keep him away from the stairs. But when one of us comes through the door, he sprints to that fence and he's like trying to climb over it to see who's coming in. And it's nice. It's a good moment to come home from a long day, good practice, bad practice, won a game, lost a game. That's not going to change. Yeah. When I come through that door, he's going to be standing up there waiting for me, and that kind of just puts everything else in perspective. Like, we just lost the game, but geez, look at this. How can you be upset? And this is what you got to walk home to, And so, we've been at it for a long time.
So you mentioned about going home after a loss. So kind of touch on what it's kind of been like after a loss, and how you as a coach, or even you as a player, kind of handle that and kind of get ready for the next practices.
Okay, and really good question. Like with a loss or anytime we don't play well, the first question I ask myself is, did I do the right things? Did I put them in the best positions to succeed? Did I call the right plays? Did I have the right people in the game? Was the rotation right? Did I make a bad call late or something like that? And once I kind of go through that process, then I kind of replay some of the game. Of course, I can't remember all 40 minutes of the game, but I kind of remember certain things that can kind of lead to me remembering certain sequences throughout the game. And if I can think of something that I did wrong, I'm the first one to own it. I'll tell the team, hey, that was me. I did that. That wasn't on y'all. But just processing it, really processing it, and not so much because of the loss of what led to it. Like what led to us being out of position right there. What led to us not executing our offense on this late possession that may have cost us the game. So it's a really slow processing thing that I go through after every game. Even in the wins, I still think the same way. Because even in wins, there are lessons to be learned. In losses, there's always lessons to be learned. But I'm a big believer in, I'm the head coach. So if something's not right, if something's wrong, I look at myself first, and I really have to reflect on some things. And I've made some bad calls. Yeah, and it won't be the last time. I'm going to make other bad calls. But in the moment, to me, it seems like the right thing to do. Yeah. But sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. That's kind of the nature of this position that I'm in and the job that I have. But just that process of thinking, what could I have done better to help my team out? Now, sometimes it's all on them, and they know it. Like if we're missing wide open shots or we're not boxing out or we're not playing with the right effort and the right energy, that's on the team. Like those things I can't control. Yeah. But like certain calls or certain things that happen in certain situations are within my control, and I try to think of those things first before I go to look at anybody else. I want to critique myself. And it's usually about 18 to 24 hours before I can fully move on to something else. Like I'll go to sleep sometimes and still think about the game, wake up the next morning for a few hours and still think about it. Yeah. But after that 24 hours, I try to move on to the next thing. After I've kind of processed everything, watched the film, broke down all of the shot selection and contested shots, deflections, and things that we chart. Once I can look at all of that stuff, then I can kind of turn the page to the next game or the next practice. And whatever I've come up with, I talk with my assistant, and we'll try to implement those things into the next practice to kind of help us be better with what we were not so good with that previous game. Yeah,
because I've always noticed after every game, you and your assistant always sit in your seats afterwards and kind of reflect on the game. And does that help you regulate what you want to say once you get back to the
100%. 100%. I really, really value my assistant's opinion. I really, really value the opinion of my team. And once the game is over, and even at halftime, we'll sit there some and we'll just talk about what just happened. Like if it's the first half, we'll talk about the things that the other team had success with and some of the things that we had success with, and how do we want to combat that, and what do we want to adjust or tweak in the second half. And after the games, we usually sit and we'll kind of talk about the game and talk about the stat sheet that we may be looking at. And the first question I always ask her is, did we do the right things? Did we have them in the right positions to succeed? Right. Because I really believe in it starts with us. It starts with us being really, really prepared going into every game and making sure that the stuff that we know, now passing it on to them so that they semi-know it going into every game. Now, they're not going to know everything that we know about the teams. Yeah. It's hard enough to remember the plays that we have. Right. So I'm not going to ask my team to remember all the plays that this other team is going to run at us. We'll try to remember certain actions to defend, but we're not going to remember all their plays. Now, myself and coach, we will, because we study it so much. We watch it so much. But the players, just remember these kind of actions. The main action is what y'all need to be concerned with, and let us deal with everything else. And they've been okay with that to start the year. We've been solid with internalizing the scout and executing the game plan early in the year. But those times when we kind of sit halftime and after the game, that gives us a chance to really talk to each other about what just happened, and kind of voice any like displeasure we have with decisions that were made. That's the time to talk about it.
Yeah. So what's it like for you? Oh, should I say, what's the difference between that match day feeling and that match day preparation from when you're the one playing and when you're the one coaching?
It's not much. Not much. Even back when I played, I was a real student of the game. I really, really wanted to be prepared. It's like taking a test. Yeah. Like you're a student right now, you have an exam in a few minutes, right? And hopefully you prepared yourself for it. You would not go into that exam without studying. You're going to set yourself up for failure. You know, and that's similar to going into a game or going into a practice. I really want to be prepared going into each setting. And I don't want anything to catch me by surprise. You know, if I've prepared myself and I've kind of mentally been through these things as a coach and as a player, now when it happens in that split second in a game, now I can kind of react a little faster because I've thought about this before, as opposed to it happening and I'm like, geez, okay, figure it out. Now it's taking me a few possessions to kind of figure out what's happening because it's my first time really seeing it. You know, and while I'm trying to figure it out, what is the team doing? Trying to figure out what I'm trying to figure out, you know, and so I'm not able to help them out. You know? So I think the more prepared you are, the better you can feel about executing your stuff, and you don't have to play thinking so much. You know exactly what you're looking for, so now I can just react. I've seen this. I've done this. I've seen this coach call this set to start every game. Let me tell my team that. Now they can just go react to it. Yeah. You know, and as a player, I was the same way. I really studied film. I mean, it wasn't as prevalent. It wasn't as much, and like it's really easy to get film right now as a player. Like with Synergy and Huddle and all of that stuff, we didn't have all of that. We had to dig a little deeper, like DVDs and get clips sent to us on a computer to kind of watch our film. And it would take a lot longer. Yeah. But that's all we had at the time. And that's all we knew. Like, we didn't know what we have. We didn't know what this generation would have, you know? So that's what if it took an extra 15 or 20 minutes to get it done, it took an extra 15 minutes or 20 minutes to get it done. But I really believed in being prepared. And that has led to the way I coach. I've been able to play for some really good coaches. And I've seen the way that they prepared. You know, I think that's kind of helped and molded my style as well.
So kind of, I'm going to flip this a little bit. So how you have played underneath some good coaches and that's kind of influenced your coaching style. How does the player you were influence your coaching style? Or does it at all?
100%. Yeah. Listen, the biggest compliment that I've gotten in the last few years, it came from a friend of mine watching one of my teams play, and he was like, "Yeah, I can tell that's a D HUD team right there." And because I played a certain way, like on a basketball court, I was a defensive minded player. You know, I wasn't as gifted offensively as some players are. You know, but I knew my role, I knew my limits, and I knew what I was good at. Yeah. You know, I could really defend. I was an okay athlete, so let's really defend and let's not turn the ball over. That's who I was as a player. And when one of my friends or a family member or anybody can watch a game and see that my imprint is on that, I mean I'm doing something right. Right. Like if you can tell me, I can tell that's you right there. You got your imprint all over that. And yeah, so the way I played and the way I approached things, I tried to pass on to my team. You know, do we always get it 100%? No. Right. Like before a game, Scotty, I was a person that you couldn't really talk to. And not because I was a mean person or anything. I was just that deep in my preparation and being ready to go play this game. Yeah. You know, like the laughing and the cutting up before a game, that wasn't me. You know, I wanted to kind of sit in my locker, sit to myself and kind of think about what I'm about to do.
Both football and basketball?
Both. Like any kind of competition that I was going into, I was a really focus-driven. You know, so my focus and my preparation was important to me. And some people don't prepare like that. Like some people can go jumping up and down, screaming, yelling, cracking jokes before a game and be just fine. Yeah. There's different ways. And it took me a while to learn that. Like early in my coaching career, I used to get upset about some of my players cracking jokes on the back of the bus or laughing at pregame meal because that wasn't me. Yeah. But then I had to come to a realization that everybody doesn't prepare the same way. You know, we both can go out and play a really good game. You just get prepared for it in a different way. Right. Like you don't have to sit and focus and be super serious before a game for you to go have a good game. I did, you know, and it's been within like the last 3 years that I've learned that. So that's been pretty recent. Yeah, and it took me having a few conversations with some of my players about how I am before games and how I am after losses, and it took me really thinking about what they would say to me for me to understand that, okay, everybody isn't like you. Everybody doesn't think and prepare and focus the same way, but can go out and have a really good game. So it doesn't really matter how you do it, just get it done. Right. And that I kind of changed the way I kind of approach the team with some of that stuff because it's a new generation for one. Yeah. And everybody doesn't prepare the same way. But yes, my preparation as a player definitely influences my preparation as a coach as well.
So, on the coaching side, I think every sport got hit in a different way once the pandemic happened and the way we played changed. But mainly, I feel like it affected basketball a lot different, and indoor sports a lot different than it does with outdoor sports, because everyone doesn't have the fans, but it's so much more secluded. So what was that like, coaching in that style and there being a lot less noise?
Yes, it was really like the game didn't change. Like the game of basketball didn't change up and down as we're playing games. It was just everything felt like a scrimmage. Everything kind of felt like a closed practice. You know, you had the 10 players on the court, maybe 10 on each bench, something like that. And then there were maybe 8 or 9 administrators or people like running the scores table, and that was it.
Yeah.
You know? So when you score a basket, you're used to kind of hearing the effect of Bosherman Gym. You know, we have a really good home court advantage. And not having that, you felt it.
Yeah.
You felt it. So the game didn't change that much. I think we still had an okay year, a solid season that year, but it was just like the things around it that you're not used to. And everywhere was like that. Like every place that we played didn't have fans that year.
Yeah.
I think the people that were really, really hit the hardest by it were the seniors at the time. The high school seniors. Because when COVID hit, it gave extra years to seniors and juniors that were a part of the program at the time. And what that did, it kind of limited the amount of high school seniors that you were looking at.
Yeah.
Because if you have 3 or 4 seniors on your team that want to take advantage of that COVID year, now I don't need to go recruit 2 or 3 more freshmen.
Right.
And so I think that kind of hurt some recruiting stock and kind of hurt the future of some of the younger players that were coming through in that pandemic. I think those were the people that were affected the most. The younger, not freshmen, but the seniors of high school that didn't really get the attention that they would have gotten if it would have been 2 years ago. You know, if it would have been 2018, 2017. You know, so I think that was the biggest thing with those kids. But the games were the same for me mentally and just watching it and everything. But just the feeling of not having an opposition go crazy when they score, or our home crowd go crazy when we score.
Yeah,
it's
and
just
you guys
all
couldn't even
the
sit
bench.
next to each other.
Yeah,
anyway.
we had to space out.
Yeah,
it was weird. It was weird, but the game didn't change.
Right.
You know, we really wanted to still be who we were, no matter who was in the crowd. You know, that's something that we preach. No matter what's in the crowd, no matter what's on the scoreboard, there's a certain way that we play, and that was kind of how we kind of got through that year. But it was tough.
Yeah,
it was tough. We had testing every other day, I want to say, or something like that, twice a week, and a player went down. It kind of took the team down. Like you would get some games postponed and everything. So that it was a bear to get through now.
Yeah.
Just every other day getting a swab and everything. I know the team didn't really like it, but it's what we had to do to get through the year.
Yeah. And also talking about the difficulties of 2020, coming back in the fall and kind of being in a new place where there's a lot more knowledge about things and a lot more people that have been secluded by themselves. So what was that like, handling the fall of 2020 in preparation for the spring of 2021?
Like coming out of it?
Yeah.
Like coming out of it, it was something, I mean, we knew it would be different. We knew it would be different with the players that will be coming in and even the players that we had here. And so as an institution, we knew that coming in, and it was brought up in some of our meetings. As an institution, we knew of certain signs to kind of look for and certain things that we could do as coaches, as professors, that can help this incoming class that has just gone through nothing but online things, and now they're going to be in person. It's going to be a big change for them.
Yeah.
And so coming through that, we were put in good situations. I feel like we had really good support staff. The COVID team kind of helped out a lot with if you there's a student struggling with this, struggling with how to communicate this, how to communicate that, this is who you reach out to. And I think the people we had around here that were in charge of that kind of spearheaded that attack, did a really good job. Like our campus life team did a really good job of helping anybody that would have COVID or be in their room with the meal delivery thing that we had, the meal delivery service of anyone that can't leave their room. I just thought we had a really good plan. We had a really good plan, and it took a lot of people to execute that plan. And I think it was a full team effort. I mean, coming through that, I think everybody kind of learned something. You learned something about yourself. You learn something about the people that you're around on a day-to-day basis. And I think everybody was better going forward having gone through that. You know, it sucked in the moment. Absolutely. It was not great, but learning the things that we learned about ourselves and the people who we're around on a day-to-day basis, I think that helped us out in the long run.
Yeah. So it's been lovely getting to talk to you and getting to know you more. Thank you for being here with us. Again, I'm Scott Douglas and this is Coach Hudson. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed myself.